Izabela, I want to thank you for joining the Scaling with Heart podcast today. And for those listening, Izabela is a global strategist, keynote speaker, and trusted advisor to billion-dollar brands. As CEO of the Legacy Leaders Institute and host of the top 1% ranked Legacy Leaders show, she empowers executives to lead with resilience, clarity, and impact. Izabela specializes in AI strategy, digital transformation, and people-centric change. Her work bridges leadership, ethics, and innovation to shape future-ready organizations. With clients across Fortune 500 companies, governments, and global movements, she brings bold insight and a deep commitment to legacy-driven leadership. Izabela is also a #1 international best-selling author and contributor to Forbes and the Forbes Coaches Council. Izabela, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Nikki, for having me. Thank you also for a great introduction. I really appreciate that.
That's part of the fun, is learning more about new people.
I can.
So I'm curious, having published books in the past myself, I'm curious if you can tell us more about your the author side of you and the contributions you've made to Forbes and the Forbes Coaches Council. Maybe we can start there.
That sounds great. Authorship for my book, The World Messenger: From Fear to Greatness, Business, Sports, and Life Lessons, came in 2015 as a cumulative work that I did, inner work and outer work, and also pivotal moment where I felt that was a time to share some of the wisdom and experiences that I saw repeatedly others were needing. And I thought that was the best way to actually serve. So not only I spent time to interview experts and was dedicated specifically for a men audience in sports and what analogies from the sports that we can use to bring us together, and also the analogies from the business and things from male leaders that were crucial and pivotal in my development as a leader, and then obviously the life experience. But there was a deeper message in there. Obviously, everything in the past that occurred to my life, from surviving war and collapse of former Yugoslavia, becoming refugee, all the way to coming to United States, was really interesting, a journey. And every pivotal moment, who was decision maker behind it was a man. And as somebody said, you don't look like someone who survived all of that. But what's very interesting is that some things obviously build us, make us stronger. And a lot of times people never guess and not have no idea what that maybe journey looks like, and who looks different stereotypes or whatever perceived notion around that. But what's really interesting, Nikki, about that is that capsulate it and really show and demonstrate that all of us are going through that journey and dealing with perceived fear and true danger and difference between those two. And also, obviously, journey that all of us want to be the best version of ourselves. For most part, even though maybe we don't vocalize that or we maybe not fully yet aware of, but ultimately that is the kind of hidden motive behind it, right? So it's like what it takes to be great, what it takes to really face those fears head on. And then also because I had a chance and opportunity to work with people around the globe with over 125 countries. When you think about that's more than half of the world, it's actually 3/4 of the world. What are the messages? And that's how Journey of the World Messenger became a message from the world to back to the world in a different ways that can really uplift and help people on their journey of change and transformation. And obviously, that particular book became international bestseller, gave me opportunity to be on different stages and speak to different audiences. But more than anything, every chapter has a little bit thought-provoking questions and opportunity to reflect, because different breakthroughs, different points of the journey and different stages for all of us bring us to contemplate and sometimes to connect those dots, right? So the same thing when I was asked to contribute to the Forbes and specifically to Coaches Council, based on invitation, I also felt like this is a great opportunity to have my voice further expand beyond the LinkedIn. Because before Microsoft purchased LinkedIn, there used to be these multi-million viewer groups, and I was consistently featured women in technology, women in leadership, all kinds of groups with my blogs. But then I thought it's a time now to really go to very trusted publication that is reputable and elevate also and challenge myself again for the new level of leadership, because that publication is one of the top most reputable ones right now and most read. So I thought not only that I can then bring the value that can help others, but also challenge myself to be able to write to the level that is worthy of the publication that you have in question. And then last component of your question from Forbes Coaches Council, it's opportunity also right now. For decades, we're seeing coaching uprise, right? How is a coaching being perceived? How is much needed? Individual, the group, but also from different professions, right? We see right now, for example, C-suite, specifically CEO's role being the most complex than ever before. A lot of times it can be very lonely, very challenging, and matter of the expertise that they need to be able to very quickly make such a pivotal decision. Also, it's a great avenue to help to contribute the voice of experience, and at the same time assist others on their journeys through very specific way and making positive impact.
I love that. And I would venture to guess that your journey and the challenges that you have overcome and the stories that you have to tell also make you a more empathetic leader and coach and make it better, easier for you to connect to people on a deeper level, even if you don't know their story and their trauma or whatever has gotten them to where they are today. I would venture to guess that it gives you a better chance of connecting with people at that level.
Very true, but it's interesting that my upbringing, even way before any of those events occurred, was very much so anchored in that. And really, frankly, just amplify that even more so, right? So, when you have that upbringing that is not only focused on that spirituality and ethics and specific doctrines that you find from your maternal grandmother or your father, and you also see concepts how life is supposed to be lived, and then when you find certain events that gives you a chance to amplify, just shows more who truly you are. And but the journey and experience, when you think about it, I lived in 5 different countries. US is my sixth country that I've been living in. Also, English is my sixth language. I traveled extensively around the world, and then working now with such a diverse cultures. When you think about it, we're in a global economy, global business. And more than ever, we're interconnected, but not just because, company operates in 75 countries or whatever, or 150. It's more about also essence of knowing each of these cultural diverse settings, and then from there understanding philosophy not only of the business but more than anything people, and you more than anybody can relate what that means from people perspective, right? How all of us are different and we have a different ticking points, right? And it's so important to understand from behavioral standpoint what makes each of individual tick and what makes each of individual motivated or demotivated, and frankly to fulfill their own greatness and tremendous leadership.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I learned in my last job. And I didn't, you and I were talking earlier about it being hard we always downplay, or we tend to downplay our own experiences and our own wins and accomplishments. And one of the things that I never really put a whole lot of thought into was the diversity of people that I have learned to communicate with. And that in leadership and helping businesses scale and grow and helping people find new levels of personal success and professional success. Being able to communicate and work with and build relationships with people from diverse backgrounds is so important. And some of it is a more traumatic journey that led them there. And some journeys are not necessarily traumatic, but they have a much different cultural background. And learning learning to do all of that and navigate all of that is very challenging. And it's something, it sounds like you have definitely learned to do that. I mean, you've had the benefit, I would think benefit of living in all of those different countries and experiencing those cultures firsthand. I learned those cultures just by having conversations like this and working with entrepreneurs and business owners and learning their cultures. And then realizing that as a leader, I could not, it's not my place to say, Izabela, this is the way we do it, and you're just going to have to come to the way we do it.
Mhm.
It's my place as a leader to be open-minded to what you need and what works for you and adjust my way of doing things to fit you. Sure, some processes can't bend, but the approach can.
Mhm.
And that sounds like something that you have had a lot of very personal relationship and interaction with.
Yes, and I have to say, as they say, the Mastercard can buy anything, but these experiences to me are most priceless ones because it allowed me to connect with people and meet them, first of all, where they are, but understand and be open-minded, not judgmental, inclusive in essence of I want a dialogue. I want to get to know you, like exactly what we're doing right now, and getting to know each other and having conversation that can be uplifting, meaningful, or impactful for others. That's the motive behind it, right? It's like for everything that we're trying to do, what can we do to better others or support and be of service? So, with that philosophy in mind, one of the things that was most pivotal in my career when I was running a nonprofit organization and was actually dealing with the torture survivors, genocide, war trauma, human trafficking, rape victims from all over the world, and very horrible occurrences. But what was really interesting is to see the strength, the resilience, and also dignity that those individuals had despite of circumstances, and how much when they feel safe and when we created safe environment and when we built very quickly trust, which I was always able to do that, was a really amazing exchange, and was also opportunity not only for me to bring my wisdom and knowledge or experience, but also tap into theirs. And I strongly believe no matter we age group, no matter upbringing, we have always great opportunity to learn from another. And we were open to. And I find the leaders, specifically in this modern time and current time, that are open minded from that perspective, that are dialoguing, that are curious, that are engaging because they really want to seek to understand and want to get to know the other human being that is sitting across them, or that they really want to understand better the problem, are the ones that are actually learning and leading simultaneously so effectively, because right now we have this such a rapid scale of learning curve, AI, for example, or so many changes, so many risks, that in the same time you have to kind of look at both pieces together. And if you are open-minded that I may not know everything, but Nikki does. Let me ask what Nikki thinks, or how can we make this better? And also to be open-minded to say, hey, guess what, Nikki, I don't have all the answers,
Mhm.
but let's work together and we can figure it out. Let's probe who else should we include it, who needs to be part of the dialogue. That level inclusion when we're talking about. In terms of also diverse points of thinking, when I think about that, is like you and I might think identically the same, but guess what? We might have also blind spot as a result of it. And if we're not bringing other people with different perspective, that diverse way of thinking is going to turn what? Into echo chamber. And we have plenty of echo chambers right now, don't we? And
Yes,
then
we do.
And it's going to also put us in position that we're going to just agree, which we see 99%, but then nothing changes. And no wonder people get frustrated. No wonder it's like, oh yeah, you guys ask for X, Y, and Z, but guess what? It's still the same, same old, same old. And I find that that is very challenging and difficult for a lot of people to really grasp. And when you talk about the level exposure, you also intentionally yourself are going to expose yourself more, right? By putting yourself in the shoes, you're doing the podcast, you interview, you bring in the guests, you're also active on LinkedIn, you are also building new relationships, new connections. That also shows that type of aptitude and attitude, and you're visible. And one of the things that I found leaders like that really do not only stand out, but they keep the pulse of what's going on. And I think that is really essential.
Yeah. And it's funny you talk about, if we think the same way and we see everything the same way and we think the same way, how that can be great, but it can also be a negative because it can bring bias into it. I've worked on teams where, and I didn't realize it at the time. Hindsight is 2020 and all of that, right? I didn't
Yes.
realize it at the time when I was working on a team, but I was working on a team where, with the exception of one person, everyone on the team was of a certain age range, a certain religious belief, a certain political leaning, and even a certain race. I mean, there was no diversity in race, religion, politics, or to a large degree, age. And that created, like you're saying, an echo chamber where, sure, we all got along and we all thought the same way,
Mhm.
but it kind of was an echo chamber. And the one person on the team who was a completely different religion and the far side of the political beliefs and a complete and far out of our age range, that person never felt safe speaking up and throwing in a different perspective.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, we need to have that diversity and we need to invite diversity and other mindsets and belief systems and cultural backgrounds and all of those things into our lives and our conversations. Unless, of course, we're looking to build an echo chamber where, and I don't see a place where we actually are going to get ahead and win if we're just building an echo chamber.
It's a very good point here. And I wanted to just extend a little bit about echo chambers because they're psychologically safe and it's predictable. And it's controllable. And people who need control are usually ones who are not as strong, and they also need that level of validation, right? That doesn't mean that everything needs to be disrupted. That doesn't mean that change necessarily needs to be massive. But if you are consistently seeing your numbers are not showing results you're seeking, or your team is not performing to the level that you would like to see, those are the first indicators. It's like how fed up you want it to be, how much do you want to wait, how important it is truly to keep that status quo. Are you buying time? I remember, and I will never forget that when we did assessment years ago for one firm, and when I flat out being told, I don't care. All of the numbers are there showing that the change will give X, Y, and Z. I'm getting retired in 4 years. I want to make sure by time I will never see the return of investment of what you're proposing to do. And I just wanted to retire and get my bonus of retirement and structure that I have. That's it.
Right.
And that level of honesty, however shocking was for me, I was really actually appreciating because that helped me to understand the way certain individuals think, the way leaders, investors, and everybody in between think about it. It's like, what is your goal and objective to say no? What are you worried about? Is it impacting your bottom line when you would decide to retire? Are you not going to see return on investment? Is it perceived or not value? What is it? And was it really good for me to know? It wasn't because we lacked the value and what we proposed wasn't real. But in the same time, now question is, what can you then see the return investment in that 4 years before you retire? And what would you like to do in handoff? And if we have that short-sighted way that I don't care what problem's going to happen because I will be gone, that is the most irresponsible leadership trait that I see and the most toxic one. On the flip side, if something that's going to keep status quo, that we can still be profitable and coast, that's fine. I guess that's your prerogative. If you don't want a major margin, you don't want to disrupt. On the flip side, if you already see decline and you see so many risks, but then you are not taking a process or steps towards making a positive change or change that is actually so desperately needed, that is a very irresponsible and cowardly type of leadership. And that doesn't serve anybody either, because then you just purposely create a more and more problem and challenge it for somebody else to deal with. So we're seeing all kinds of different scenarios, and those are just few. But what I'm seeing also that is more than ever important, which is truly, however cliche feels and touchy feely, when we lead from heart, when we're heart-centered leaders, it's such a different energy. It's not about proving ourselves. It's not about ego. It's not about a power play. It's not about all these insecurities. You can still be insecure, but when you're heart-centered, that differently regulates your being. And as a result, how you show up energetically, how do you show up with your position, with your skill set, with your intent. And I think that is also huge right now, obviously, as we are wrapping up the year. What's going on in the landscape of the business? We're seeing something unprecedented. Yes, we used to have a lot of layoffs in the past, but to let go of people right before holidays, before Thanksgiving or Christmas, or right before you're supposed to pay them bonuses, or abruptly in a way that is legally beautifully versed, that doesn't get you any liability, but ruins your brand reputation and everything actually else. It's actually not worth it, and that takes away that human factor. So the reason I'm bringing this up is, Nikki, because we're seeing so many symptomatic issues, and then what it's expected for to tolerate them and accept them. And a lot of people, as a result, are burned out, having mental health issues, and tremendous crisis. So, with that in mind, I just want to point out how important it is to really look on that very first step. Who am I? How I show up? What I'm known for? What my day to day looks like? And what it looks like from the lens of people I interact with. Not what I think about myself, but what other things about me, how they're perceiving me, how they see me showing up and leading, and how is that matching with the persona that I wanted to portray or I think about that I possess.
Yeah, I did a in the course of my job hunt journey, I've done a lot of that self-reflection, kind of like you're talking about. And when I started getting active on LinkedIn and trying to figure out, what was going to be my focus, my center. And, I thought I knew about myself, but I came up with a list of questions just from all kinds of different sources. And some of the questions I came up with required me to go to people I've worked with in the past, family members. My children are brutally honest when it comes to answering questions about me. Hey, what do I do wrong? What's bad about me? They're like, really jump on that, right? But it took me, I opened up to other people and made myself vulnerable by saying, what did I not do well? What did I do very well? When you think of me, what do you think about? Kind of, I'm asking all of those questions, answering them from my perspective, but then getting the input from other people and then seeing where the two combine. And doing that, you talked about companies making moves that damage their brands and doing all of that self-reflection and inventory taking from other people and their opinions of me kind of helped me hone in on my brand and gave me, and it really helped me see where my center is, or my true north, or whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
what drives me. And it doesn't matter if I was volunteering for my kids' school activities, or just being a mom in my kitchen, or a professional in the workplace, or any place in between, or a volunteer for a job seeker network that I'm a part of. I bring the same thing to every single table I sit at. And that is my brand. And when looking for a job, knowing what my brand is makes it easier for me to find the right company, the right seat to join. And I think that is something that too few people I don't know if it's that they don't take the time to do it, they don't know how to do it, they don't feel safe to do it. But I think it's something that everybody needs to take more time to figure out for themselves. And once they do, I think that's when we'll all start to see a better transformation for ourselves.
That is a very good point, but I think it's very interconnected with multiple different things.
Mhm.
Not many people, not many leaders know how to give constructive feedback, and frankly, they're even way worse how to receive it.
Right.
At the same time, organizations are not providing psychological safety right now. That is one of the major components that is missing. So from the behavioral standpoint, if people are not feeling safe and if they're not feeling that they can trust people around, it's very, very difficult to show any symptoms of vulnerability. The ones who are vulnerable, and I've been so many times, I'm going to raise the hand, the first one to share some vulnerable moments. And then I realize how quickly those are used or misused or skewed to create different perception of me, completely missing the intent and mark behind it. So very quickly you learn that, like, how to be in that neutral zone, right? And it's also interesting because what looks like on surface, like, oh, are we really that kind of closed culture? Are we that really open culture? Are we really that open for that invitation? Are we really looking really to get that types of feedback? And interestingly, it's also very important to understand from who you getting the feedback from. And I learned very painful lessons in my life. I didn't have many mentors early on. A lot of it was a trial and error, a lot of things to figure it out. New country, new language, new culture, what it means to be on surface very kind and polite, but what that but the actual too casual, but what it was a no deep depth or true meaning behind it, right? It's like growing up in Europe and we say, hey, we'd love to see you, but let's do something next week together, meant you really want to do something next week. How many times people say that casually, they have no intent of that. Or at work, it
Absolutely.
will be great to actually work on this project together. Let's circle back later. It's like, oh yeah, there's nuances. Doesn't mean that somebody actually truly want that, and let them then initiate. It's like all these hidden cues that are really part of individual and organizational nomenclature. And you know how important that is. And then it's like, are we stuck in those cliches? Are we also stuck in all these norms or perceived expectations? And are we actually just in that fluid, creative, open, inviting type of environment? So it definitely calls for different level of understanding. So I'm being in all of those environments, from very low psychological safety, very brutal, to very again, creative open, when everybody is seen as a snowflake, that everybody's so unique, and that we can actually never on anything really align and collaborate, because I want to work in this system and you want to work in that system, and then I want to work in my preferences this way versus your preferences that way, and we really never meet besides just maybe same working hours. So we have these extremes and polarities, and it's really important to us understand how that actually carves the culture, the nomenclature that everybody resonates with, and not only how it's written, but how it's lived. two
Mhm.
different things. And then when that is lived, an essence of that, that is then not anymore just yours or mine, it's ours and it's collective and it's broader and it's bigger. And that's one of the things that I always emphasize on how important it is, even though we have that global perspective, be able to zoom in and laser focus where we are at what we're dealing right now at any given moment. And always when I deal with the clients, it's like, that's the clean slate, that's the new opportunity, but also no judgment. It's just like, this is what it is. And if it works, and if you guys want to continue, great. But if it doesn't work, and you have certain things going on and you're aware of it, then obviously calls for much deeper discussion and opportunity for change and transformation that we're talking about.
Right. So when you have worked in companies where maybe the culture is lacking that psychological safety and you've had the conversation that this is missing and we need to get it back on track, well, how do you handle it when your clients are just completely resistant and not willing to change anything? I mean, do you have one piece of advice that you have found tried and true works over and over again to
Mhm.
help companies or leaders realize this really is broken and I need to make it better?
I love that question because, as you noticed probably by now, I'm also a storyteller. I love to use real examples. So what I do is, depending of scenario, even though it's certain trust there, I will ask, may I have a permission to share what typically happens in these scenarios? And when you narrow it down, you have literally, Nikki, only two options here. Continue the path you're going, and this is the results and outcome you can expect. We're already seeing symptoms, and this is the cause and effect. You focus on an effect of that, but root cause is usually this. And when I point exactly to that specific industry or scenario or situation, they're like immediately finding themselves. And I don't even have to ask, from these 15 or 10 or 5 or 3, how many of these components, elements, you already seen you are at? I don't need to tell you. You know better than anybody else. And that is like turning tables around in sense of ownership and recognition and validation, right? So automatically they're like, oh my God, yes. And then I look at the flip side. I was like, you guys can go and how far you want to do, but this is what's going to continue happening. And it's not anymore how it's going to affect you, your position, your role right now, but how it's going to impact team, but frankly, your customers, why your business exists in first place, right? And when you really get to that touchy feely, and then it's not even threat. It's not like, oh my God, what your competition's gonna do. But then knowing, Nikki, do you recognize your competitors? And then I list what could those competitors are, and they're like, how did you know? Or how did you know about X, Y, and Z? But did you realize what they recently changed themselves? Did you get up and up with what's going on in reality check in your city, like in Dallas in this case, in Texas, and then also neighboring states and across the nation, and then internationally? What you can anticipate? And then the flip side. It's not that it's always the flip side. Oh my God, it's going to be all the milk and honey, but with very small efforts. If we move the needle in this direction, this is what you can expect with the 30, 60, 90 days. This is what you're going to expect with 180 days. And guess what, Nikki? What you're going to have done by 365 days for next year at this time. So you
Right.
tell me where would you like to be, and which part would you like to start working on right now? Or would you like to continue being in echo chamber, or you keep your status quo and continue the path that you know is going to not only cost your job, but it's going to cost your company money. Either it's yours or you running for someone else, right? And frankly, how it is going to be damaging for your next role, because people don't realize how many CEOs are actually losing jobs right now. We never seen such a exodus and unprecedented turnover, because board of directors are not waiting anymore for someone 5, 10, 20, 30 year of tenure to make some action and decision. If they don't see the results that they should be seeing, and they're not stabilizing organization on the core functions, they are firing CEOs left and right. Problem is, We do not have as many groomed, trained, and capable CEOs to deal with the complexity we have dealing today. And I will publicly say that over and over again. Reason why? Typical CEO has so many things going on for them, a larger company even more. But most of them don't have the time to invest in development on personal level. What we do, they juggle way too many things. Most of them don't go for additional credit or education or everything else. They're learning as they go, and it's just very difficult, because if you not continue that progression of development we were talking early on, you're going to have bigger and bigger gaps. And I see this when we discuss AI, for example. I see this when we discuss the change and transformation. I see that when we discuss tool rationalization, because they have way too many tools and gadgets, but very little results. I see that when they also want to downsize, and when they want to now do reorg and organizational design. I mean, I can go from any angle you want to look at, but also from the tenure. And interesting, Nikki, I'm sure you're very familiar, and this is something that I find fascinating. I remember way, way before it became trend, I always looked at Glassdoor
Mhm.
for every company that it's somebody in the United States, it's on the Glassdoor. I always look, what is actually review of the CEO? Wow, how people think about them that work for them currently and that work with them in past.
Right.
What pain points are going on and what people are voicing right now? And you know what's so interesting? Because those comments, like just based on what they tell you, it's like you know what people complain in general, like benefits could be better, hours, work-life balance, etc. But then when you start in this behavioral stuff, again, effect, I know what's the root of it. So, and then obviously what's being publicly available. And then when you also have a chance to talk to someone who left the company or someone who was in very high predominant role and what they have to say, what's also word on the streets, and what is this word in the private conversation? It's so easy then to connect the dots and really get such a quick holistic picture without even really going deep down in that conversation. But it's also important not just to assume, to really see how forward they are. And trust me, a lot of times people are very clueless. And that is also the other danger. And I'm sure you run into that. It's like, how can you be so clueless? Because you have so much going on internally that you could have much better pulse.
Mhm.
And guess what? Again, silo chamber, disconnect. C-suite, I never seen more also fragmentation with the C-suite itself. It's like, wow, you need to talk to operation guys. And also you need to talk to chief information officer, in addition technology officer, but as well AI and all of that. And I've seen even just around the tech fragmentation. Now, technology never had all of these additional verticals and additional support. And even among themselves, they can agree. So it's like if you guys from technology umbrella cannot agree and bring insight that is needed for other divisions to really understand and know better, no wonder we're experiencing issues that we are.
Yeah, those silos can be killers, can't they? I
Yes.
have I have definitely seen where silos and you can't get on the same page within this one function of the business, and so let alone all of the other functions that need to tie together. Um, yeah, I've seen every bit of that. And we are just about out of time, and I want to, let you get on with your day. I'm sure we both have things to do with the holiday weekend coming up. Uh,
We do.
But one last question. If you could embed one belief or behavior in every leadership team, what would it be?
Hmm. I mean, in every leadership team, I think it's very crucial to self-discovery. It's crucial, obviously, but behavior-wise is to be accessible. to be available. With accessibility comes kindness, compassion, willingness to listen, all of that. But the trait itself, if you can be kind but still not be accessible. If you can still be compassionate, but if people never think that you're available and not approachable and never can talk to you, it's game over. So you're not that busy with all the key elements because again, if you're accessible and available, then you will know the pulse of everything that is going on firsthand. And you will be in knowing because people will come to you, not necessarily with all the problems, but also with solution. And you will have much better opportunity to lead and fix things as they're coming. But if you don't, find that a lot of leadership's hiding. They're strategically invisible to their own people, their core team members, let alone across the organization. And I think that is the biggest mistake of leading, specifically in today's environments.
I like that one. I've heard some great stories of I had early on in the podcast, I had a gentleman on and he was talking about the CEO of UPS. And, she's got people coming at her from every different direction all the time. And he said, he ran into her, I don't know, I think in the elevator or something at a conference, and it was just the two of them. He said, there's no way she remembers who I am today. But in that moment, that was just the two of us. It was just the two of us. And he remembers that moment and how, even though she is running that massive company, she took the few minutes that they had together to make him feel seen and important. And I think that is so critical and definitely, makes her an accessible an accessible leader in the way that you're talking. And I think it's huge. I love that. Well, I want to thank you for joining me today. If anybody wants to reach out to you and contract your company for guidance and leadership, do you want to tell us how they can contact you, Izabela?
Yes, they can do that through my LinkedIn. They can DM me directly or through my website, legacyleaderinstitute.com. And we have a contact information and all of that available on the website.
Awesome. I love it. This was so much fun, and I really enjoyed chatting with you, and I look forward to continuing to chat and engage in stuff on LinkedIn.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.